the first line item, it comes due at the end of this year, correct?
That's correct.
And there's still a very large balance. So were these loans made that they're lump sum payment at the end?
That's correct.
Okay. Is that the way all the loans are done in the loan program? Just looking at the balances, it seems like that's,
Well,
I mean, there's some principal pay down.
The North Star and the 25-10 capital are both like that.
Okay.
I think when these loans were originally, and these were before I came here.
Yeah, me too.
They were contemplating TID closure dates, so we didn't want to extend them past
Of course.
certain dates.
So they're not interest only? Well, I guess I should ask the question, are they interest only still at this point, or is it, I mean,
Well, there's
obviously some
principal and
principal
interest.
pay down.
The idea was what's the monthly amount going to be,
That
so
they
there's a
can
certain
get.
principal and interest amount paying down the balances, but they're definitely on lump sums at the end of the
Super low.
first
Yeah,
two.
yeah, I knew that, but, so for the 25-10, I mean, we're 6 months away from,
Yes,
do we reach out
Yeah.
to them and at this
Yeah.
point and say, obviously,
yes,
I mean,
I've sent them a
you did,
a
okay.
Post-it note
Got it.
once
Yeah.
with their invoice, per se. I think I probably put it on a full piece of paper, but it was just a very brief, don't forget, this is a balloon
'Cause I mean-
payment at the end.
I mean,
And
I'm
I'm
not sure.
also going to reach out with them a little more formally by email, in the next month or so. Again, just looking to affirm that they are aware of the lump sum, payment at the end of that. And if they have ready cash, that's great. If they need to have it, acquire that cash, they'll at least have, 90 days to go through that process.
And I mean, theoretically, we could, I mean, is our only option basically the loan matures, or could we?
Well, it's
could we-
due. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
It's due, right, so that
if
loan
the
goes
applicant,
away.
if the applicant were to come in and request an alteration or modification to a loan, that would certainly be,
Yeah, or put it on, we're gonna put it on more of a standard 5-year term, and they're gonna pay it over, or 3-year term, whatever.
well, this,
I mean,
again, the original intent, when's the original date of this? 2009, so this has already been 10 years, so.
Yeah,
Been a pretty good deal for that.
totally, yeah, I'm not saying we don't do that, I'm just,
Yeah, I mean, obviously the board can.
that's the downside of these types of loans is, right, that you hope they've been planning through that 10 years, right, to have this money available to pay it down, or they're an alternative financing arrangement, but.
And Mark, I'm assuming you would have told us, but I'm assuming we didn't hear back when we reached out to them. We didn't hear, we're looking forward to paying on December 31st.
No, again, it was a very casual, as I'm looking at my schedules and we do these quarterly reports, I made sure to include a mention of it as an insert with the monthly bill.
Okay.
I'm gonna be looking for a little more confirmation,
Yeah.
again, sometime in the next month or so to make sure that all's good. And I'm sure the property is appreciated significantly over that 10-year period, so again, I would have anticipated if the plan might have been to take out some sort of
Yep.
equity line of
Okay.
credit against the property.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions on the financial report? All right, thank you for that, Mark. Next item 6, draft of the investment policy. So again, obviously this comes out of the fact that, now we do have funds, as we just talked about, so we need to have a policy to make sure we're fulfilling what I would consider a fiduciary responsibility with respect to those funds. So there is a draft policy starting on page 11. Mark, I don't know if you want to run through this at some sort of level. I think it's fairly straightforward. Was this sort of taken from?
This is a tweaked and condensed version of the village's investment policy. Covers a lot of basic fundamental ground. Then it's a little bit tailored to some, more specifically, some of the CDA's situations. So we've got this prep for you to discuss. If you see anything that you need to comment on, we can certainly go through that before this comes back for consideration. Staff would not recommend that we consider this in isolation because this is in direct conflict with the MOU between the village and the CDA for fiscal management, or as a fiscal agent, which specifically identifies that CDA funds will remain in the general checking reserves. Certainly that's, again, something that could be modified. We've always intended on reviewing the MOUs on a regular basis.
Right.
So
Make sure
that
that's-
will be forthcoming as well. And then, again, given the level of funds that are still available within the CDA at this point, I can certainly appreciate it makes sense to maybe be able, and that interest rates have finally gotten off the
Right.
floor.
Yes.
They're going back down.
Yeah, but they might come back down.
The only question I had was, keeping 25% in cash, which I assume like is in your checking account, or, which you don't really get any kind of interest on it versus having, keeping 5 or 10% in cash, and, because keeping it in a money market account where you're getting 2% interest is essentially as liquid as cash. So what was the 25%?
In my mind, it was really more to be responsive to any new requests that might come in and needs that didn't require as much interaction with the CDA to approve, transferring funds from an investment account into the general accounts and stuff like that. I certainly can see some flexibility in that, but that was the thought.
But if you had, if you had funds in a money market, for instance, is there a lot of procedure around moving those into cash, or can someone just go ahead and do that?
Well, the policy says the CDA has to approve any
Really?
action.
Oh.
So, with that in mind,
Yes,
presuming that's what the CDA.
that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
On that note, I actually have a quick question. So all purchases and sales of investments will be authorized by the CDA. Is that, the CDA meets once a month and periodically will cancel. Do you think that will there ever come a time when we need to purchase or sell investments, even within the same investment bucket, kind of more quickly than that? I know that on another scholarship board that I sit on, we're constantly kind of flipping around investment positioning. Constantly is probably too strong a word, but it's more often than a month or two. So I'm just kind of curious as to whether that's good enough or whether it's something we want to examine.
Well, there's, in my frame of reference, I would advocate the simplest and most direct processes. Put some funds in the local government investment pool, money market, right?
Right.
Perhaps buy some certificates of deposit with laddered maturities. By default, then, the laddering of the maturities is gonna redeem. So it would take additional action to reinvest that. So again, we could continue to monitor in that way. Again, my thought is not to make this a part of your regular monthly meetings. So again, the nuances of that, we can certainly work through or tweak the policy to give a little different language flavor. But the differential between the local government investment pool and CDs right now is fairly tight. So again, the concept is just to have a little something instead of earn virtually nothing.
Right.
And that's something that the CDA, when we get to that point, we'll hammer through.
Well, maybe it's different, but, we could also contemplate some subgroup of the CDA that can authorize certain things with, subsequent reporting to the full CDA of the activities. So if we needed to take action Mark doesn't have to get response from the whole CDA.
Well, I don't envision a lot of scenarios that things are spontaneously gonna require an extra 20 grand.
Everything we're doing has a fairly
Yeah,
a long window
Right,
that we're
right.
gonna know about, and we can prepare
Yeah.
for it. I don't see us.
I mean, I'd rather do this on a quarterly basis with the quarterly report and just any updates at that point. And I think we can achieve that without much trouble, either this way or with some minor tweaks at the board's discretion.
I would recommend keeping like 10% in cash, if you can do that, because it doesn't seem like we have a lot of immediate needs, and then you get a little more interest.
I think the immediate, it's really facade. I would think
Yeah.
would probably be something that could, and then we're gonna know about that. We're gonna know about the timing of when the payments might be required, so it's gonna require a little bit of planning
Right.
on our side, for Bart or.
Yeah, because we approve the applications and then we know well in advance
Yes.
before they're gonna.
And then there's
submit
months
for
while they're
repayments.
doing the
Right.
work and. My other question was, I obviously appreciate the safety and stability and short term of it. Your thoughts on, I'd say everything is pretty much very close to cash position. Thinking
Yes.
about the funds we have,
Well,
I guess we don't need access to-
You've got 750,000 that you could probably invest.
yeah. I don't wanna.
And
get
the
too-
access to any other types of investments that the village will typically get into, like municipal bonds, school district bonds,
Yeah.
federal stuff. I even stay away from the federal, because the Fed has gotten super, I don't wanna say sophisticated, but they're constantly calling their bonds. So I'll buy something with the idea that it's a 3-year bond, and
Yeah.
it gets called 6
Sure.
months later.
Yeah.
So I've even stopped that, because it's a buy and hold strategy, but there's not a ton of that stuff out there that's gonna perform substantially better.
What about like, I don't know, mutual, obviously, mutual, short duration,
Yeah.
mutual, or even, would we wanna contemplate at least having it part of the policy, so if we wanted to, we could, I guess that would, to say, the committee can invest.
Well, number 4, for example, is that what you're talking about? Under authorized investments?
Well, I would consider, money market funds to me is one aspect of mutual funds. Again, there are short duration mutual funds that have, a.
Yeah,
2-year
again, you
duration.
start getting into certain conflicts with publicly invested funds.
Okay,
I wouldn't recommend opening too many doors. I think we wanna keep this pretty simple.
okay,
With the acknowledgement that, again, I think initially, we did not anticipate that we would have this much residual proceeds at this time.
right.
And that this would be a lot less of an issue, but we still have significant funds available, and we should do something with them.
Yep. Okay, I'm fine with that. So I think the guidance is maybe tweaking the cash.
Tweak the cash reserves requirement, yeah, I got that.
I think that's, anybody else have any? Again, I like the simplicity, we can always come back and revisit it in the future if we, I feel something needs to change, but I agree, I think it sets the right direction, has the right level of focus on, obviously, stability, safety, which is our primary, having the funds available to use for the purposes that we transfer them, so. Okay. Then I would say that
That's a model you'd like to see brought back then?
Yes, and so I guess, as you had said in the beginning, that with proposed update to the MOU
Yeah.
to align the two components. Do you feel that this, if the village remains our fiscal agent, you feel you can fulfill this?
Yeah, I do it for the
policy?
village,
Yeah.
so
from a time perspective, from a.
Yeah, again, my goal would to be pretty straightforward
Yeah,
on this.
I agree.
You know, and again, to try to squeak out an extra 1/4% interest or 1/2% interest, and, you know, what does that mean when you're talking about $100,000 over a year, you
Yeah.
know? And
Fair enough.
so,
But something better than where we are right now.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, thank you for that. So that would be a future agenda item. Okay, next item 7, housing market study RFP. Where does that start?
Page 16.
Thank you. 14.
Yeah, the memo's on 14.
14.
And then,
Bart, I don't know if you wanna, I mean, again, great summaries in here, so, you know, it sort of makes it pretty straightforward what we're looking at doing here. I know people had a chance to review the housing market study. This is, again, based on, I think one of the things was, we've obviously been sort of talking about this for a while, and the question was context, and are there studies we can look to as examples, and so we found the 2 studies that I think have good applicability here. I think you feel like this addresses what you've been hearing from us as well as others.
yeah, for the time that I've been here, particularly with the neighborhood loan, and then talking about TIF policy, whether or not there's a need for any specific kind of housing. So the neighborhood loan program is currently frozen, to help identify whether or not, you know, the duplex conversion portion of it is still relevant, or whether or not that's making things more or less affordable. So that's all kind of been in flux, and there's a lot of perceptions on either side of how that is. So I think getting some quantifiable data to help us move forward from both the staff and I think CDA perspective would be really useful. And yeah, Waukesha and Wauwatosa did these recently within the past couple of years, and so they're